So in this installment of JavaScript and arrays, as we build our little adventure game, we are going to add in use. We are going to make it so that we can use the items that we have populated into our game world. Currently the items spawn in the game world. We can take those items and we can drop those items. We can walk around with those items in our backpack and then move them to a new location, but we can't use them yet. Now, using the items requires us to add one more action. So we go to our list of actions and we will add in use. Now, then we are going to add in else if action. And again, I could have copy pasted, but yeah, whatever. It's all good. And this will be use item, and we'll pass in the item that we are attempting to use. So we have take item, we have drop item. Now we get to create our use item function. So function use item, the item that we pass to it, so our parameter. And now we get to use an item. So as we do this, using an item is going to be very similar to dropping an item, because now we need to, once again, grab the item index of the item that we passed in. So we'll say backpack dot index of the item that we are interested in, and then we say if item index is equal to -1, meaning it wasn't actually in our backpack when we said to use it. Game message will be, and then we'll put in our backtick, you are not carrying the $ curly brace item, close curly brace period, closing backtick. Okay. Now, what I want to do is say if the backpack.length, so we want to check and see if the backpack, I forgot my parenthesis there. Well, we'll have a closing paren there. So if backpack length is 0, then we're going to have game message be equal to your, quote. Now we don't need a backtick because we aren't putting any variables here, so we can just use standard quotes, single or double. Your backpack is empty. Okay. And then what we will do shortly is then we will figure out how to actually use things with it. And when I look at what I have here, one thing that I want to do is that I only want to display the backpack information if the backpack has something in it. So, because right now when we look, it always starts out, my backpack contains, and then there's nothing there, and that kind of looks bad. So we'll say let backpack contents that's like, wait, I already have that here. So we want to put my backpack contains, we're going to do it down here, and then just say backpack contents equals, single quotes. Then what we're going to do, so this is a little exercise in refactoring here. So we say if backpack dot length is greater than 0, So it's only going to show and work on the backpack if there's something in it. So now we're going to take all of this, put it in here, move it over so we can change our indent using Command or Control in the square bracket. That bumps it over. Let me get rid of that empty line there. And we don't need our let statement because we said let here, because we need backpack contents. Remembering scope, we talked about scope in our previous lesson. If I defined it inside the curly braces here, then when I try to use backpack contents here, I would get an error because it couldn't find it. So we have to make sure we define it, inside this curly brace, but not inside these, because otherwise it would be its range, its scope, its life would only exist within those curly braces. So variables exist within the scope of the curly braces where they are created. But if you try and access them outside those curlies, it will fail because that is outside the scope. So if we're outside the curly braces, we don't know. So right here, if I asked for backpack contents, it would fail because it's defined inside these curly braces, not outside. So very minor change, but now if I look here, we don't see any backpack contents. So now if we go west, take knife, now we see my backpack contains. And if we want, while we're cleaning up, we can get rid of the array position of elements that are in our backpack if we don't really care anymore. So we could get rid of those and not display those any longer. So maybe I'll just get rid of it and just put in minus sign here and go west, take knife, and now we can see it puts a little hash in front of it. If I wanted a different symbol, or if I wanted to use HTML escape code for a special character, we could do that. If I wanted to then say put a bullet or something instead of a dash or minus sign. But all of this was just simply kind of the warm-up, because if we go here and now if I say use knife, nothing happens. But if I say use match flashlight, you're not carrying the flashlight. So then we can't do it. So at least, it's, our game is getting smarter. But what we really care about is what happens when we use a specific item. So if we say if item is equal to knife. So we'll start out with the knife, and then we can say game message is equal to you cut your finger on the knife. All right. So now let's test that again. What we're trying to do while we go through this is verify that it's working before we just write lots of code into it. So I can type go west, take knife, use knife. All right, I cut my finger on the knife. Well, that wasn't very helpful, but it worked. It was in game logic, it wasn't helpful because, well, why should I get a knife if I'm just going to cut myself with it? That's not a great item, but as far as code, what's nice is our code now has worked. So now if we grab the flashlight, we use the flashlight. So if our item is the flashlight, what we can do, we could once again just set our game message, but what would be nice is if our objects had a purpose, so they don't just do something, and that purpose would be tied to a specific location on our game map. So I've decided, in the interest of gameplay that the knife is going to be a worthless object, even though it feels like, hey, there's a troll in the game, maybe the knife would be useful. But instead, I'm going to make my flashlight be the useful item for the troll. So if our map location is 0, then the game message will be the troll runs away scared of your light. Okay. All right. Oh, it's like, why is that red? I forgot an equal sign. There we go. I was trying to figure out, did I forget a curly brace, a parenthesis? No, I forgot the equal sign. So it was confused as to why it just said game message. So if my location is 0, it's going to do that. Else, the game message is going to be equal to the flashlight is not very bright. Okay. Let's see how that works. Again, we're doing this, it's baby steps. We do something, we test it, let's see if it works. So north, take flashlight, and then go west, use flashlight. And the troll runs away scared of your light. Okay, now let's go east, go west again. Oh, troll's still there, but I thought he ran away. But we can fix that. Because once we use an object and it has an effect in the game, we want that effect to stay. So now I'm just going to put a comment here and it will be update location and blocked messages. So that means we need to, in our map, we're at location 0. So map 0's message is now going to be, you see footprints of a troll in the dirt. Because, well, he ran away. We also want to say our blocked path is, well, he ran away, but we still can't continue anymore. We're going to make it so he goes away and he stays away, but we can't go off our map yet. All right, and then rocks block the path head. So we want to make it so the troll goes away and it stays away, but we're still subject to the perimeter of the map. So if we go north, take flashlight, west, use flashlight. Okay, now let's go north again. Rocks block the path ahead. Go east, go west, and we see footprints. So we can see the game world's been updated. Troll isn't back, but we still can't exit the game. So we've come up with one outcome within this. So the knife, it's a worthless object. The flashlight gets rid of the troll, but that's all it does. And if we want, we could set up the game so that we are then able to have an action. And you could make it where you have to do one action, and then when you come to an area again with, say, a different object, then you get to do a second action, and then that updates. So there's a lot of, you could build layers of complexity into this, but we're going to, for now, just keep it a little bit on the simpler side. So what I want to do is update this and say else if my item is equal to box of matches, then if map location is equal to 8, because I want to use the matches against the spiders. Because if we look back up, and we can see in location 8, we hear the sound of spiders moving in the branches above our head. So that's no fun, and cobwebs are blocking the path. So what we want to do is we want to burn those webs away. So if our location is 8, here this is where we are going to then say game message is going to be equal to the fire from the matches burns the spider webs, revealing the path ahead. Okay. And once we have burned out our path, then what we can say is our map at location, not 9, 8, is going to be equal to, could this be the path out of this madness? And then finally, let's change our blocked path at position 8. Let's say in the block path, this is also, when we do this, we're going to be then modifying, we have to modify a few more things to allow us to win here as well. But we'll just start with this. So if we're in the correct location, spiders, and not elsely, not esly, but else, very common typo, game message is going to be equal to the matches burn bright. Now, one thing you could do is you could make it, if you use the matches in the wrong place, it burns them up and you can't use them ever again. Now it is a book of matches, it's not a single or a box of matches, so you can play it as you will, but you could say the whole box catches fire, you drop it to the ground and it turns into ash. You're like, oh crap, that's bad. And then if you ever want to use the matches anywhere else, then it wouldn't work because they're gone. And then you'd have to also remove them from your backpack and not put them back into the world, or you could repopulate them to a new random location. So there's a couple of different options with it. So if we wanted to do it, we can make it that, once we use the matches, backpack, splice, whoa, where's my dot? There's my dot. Splice, and we are splicing. In this case, it is going to be our item index, and we'll get rid of one item from our backpack. Now that item index, see, we have right up here under use item, we found it originally. So now if we use the matches, they're gone. So let's just see how this works. So south, west, take box of matches. And now if I say use box of matches, matches burn bright. My backpack's empty. They're gone. So let's refresh. South, west, take box of matches. East, east, use box of matches. Far from the matches burns spider webs, revealing the path ahead. Sweet. Let's try and go west. Oh, east. Sorry, my bad. East. Now we're here. It's like, hey, our description changed. Could this be the path out of madness? Just again, you've traveled to a higher plane of existence. Now, we've kind of made it happen, but we can still wander through the game, so we haven't completely exited it yet. But we're starting to see the pattern of how we might go about doing that. To accomplish this win state of our game, what we want to do is we want to make it that if we've successfully burned out the cobwebs, I want to set a flag, a Boolean. Booleans, again, remembering they are values, variables that have two states, true and false. So I'm going to create a game over flag and set that equal to true. Now, you will think it's like, wait, how can you set it to true when you never made it? Well, yeah, now I have to go make it. So up in our variables where we're defining everything, I'll just put it here right before we call display, and I'll say game over flag, there we go, is equal to false. So the game will start out equal to false. When we successfully do the item in the location where we want it to happen, then it's going to set it to true. And we'll be able to then display this message and make all kinds of cool stuff happen. So otherwise, with made matches kind of, brutal. If you use them in the wrong spot, you're never gonna be able to end the game. So let's go up here. And what I want to do is, it's gonna be kind of tied to the actions here, but I want it to do it before. And I'm just gonna throw a little caveat in here, which is simply when we are doing iterative coding like this, we sometimes do end up with duplicative code or not always the most organized code, and that's why we have to then refactor down the road. So we'll do stuff, get it working, and then go, I could make my code more efficient if I did, and then fill in the blank. But right now we're just going to get it working. Later on we may, if opportunity presents, come up with a way to make it better. So what we need to do is we need to check for a couple of things. So the only way I can win is if I'm in location 8 and the game over flag is true, and if I say I want to go south or east, because if I'm in the square, it doesn't really differentiate between those. It says, hey, you see a path, could be the way out of here. I mean, south we could, no, but we're using the same block message for both. So we end up having to check for both situations. So the first thing, so it's if we go east or if we go south. So that means it's going to be, this isn't complete code yet, but I'm just writing in some parts so we have it, because it's going to get kind of long on this line as we do it. Well, we need more parentheses. Not what, east or west, east or south. There we go. So if my action is east or if my action is south, I want to do that. So not faction, action triple equals, or if my action triple equals. So if my action is east, so it's if one of those two things, and again, there's a couple of ways we could write this, but I'm going to do it. It's the most verbose way, but I'm hoping it makes the most sense. And it also prevents us from having to do an if inside of an if inside of an if inside of an if, because ifs inside of ifs start to get pretty ugly pretty fast. So we identified that it also requires our map location to be equal to, not 9, 8. And finally, not 3 equals 2, or not 3 ampersands, but 2. And game over flag is true. Now, I can just say game over flag. That means game over flag is true. Otherwise, I could do 3 equal signs and true, not true. But since it's getting long enough, we'll just leave it like that. So if our action is east, my application is 8, and game over flag is true, and now all of that is going to repeat. So copy that, paste that over there. Let's go over here and now add in curly brace and return. All right, so those are our 2 things. So if all of that is true, then we want to put in our message here. And we don't, if that's the case, we don't want to run any of the rest of the code in this play game function. We just want to be done, because otherwise we're going to get some repeating items. So we're going to have to figure out how to do that. So I'm not going to use the standard display. I'm just going to say output dot inner, the standard display as in calling my display method. So I'm going to say use my tick mark and then congrats. Congratulations! And now I will show that message that we kindly wrote before, which was my blocked path message at position 8, which is you traveled to a higher plane of existence. And closing back tick. There we go. So if we do that, save this and let's see what happens here. And south. All right, 161. Let's go figure out. East and south. Whoops. Need to be inside quotes the same way they're in quotes right there because they're not constants. All right. Try again. No error messages. Good. South. West. Take box. Of course, I had to choose the item that has, the most box of matches. If I'd just done like knife and made that my way out, it'd just be so much easier to type. Oh well. All right, now let's go east. East. Use box of matches. Okay. And now if we go north, let's go here, south. Let's, hey, look, see, could it be the path out here? Let's go south again. And traveled, but it still says, could this be the path out? Because it's only showing us the previous map location information and my block path message. So what I really want is I don't want to see that stuff anymore, because we're still running the rest of it and then it calls display. And once I have one, I don't want to see my text field or the submit button anymore either. So how can we take care of that? Well, we can get out of our loop the same way that when we used break said, hey, stop going through this for loop. But if I want to stop going through a function, break isn't the term we use. Instead, the term we use is return. That exits us out of this function that we're in. So if our function was returning a value, it would return that value at this point. In this case, we just want to leave this function entirely, so we don't want to run and call display. We just want to update that. So, and I had to go review something. We don't need that tab anymore. It's not really helping. We'll find out what that was in just a moment. West, take box of matches. East, use box of matches. Okay, let's go east again. Boom. Except we still see the stuff there and we don't want it anymore. So I want the input field to go away and I want my submit button to go away. Well, we have 2 ways of doing it. We could just set the style directly in here, or we could add a class to it that makes it go away. Generally preferred method would be to have a class. So I would go up into my styles up here and I would have a class of display none. like we've done on previous activities, and we say display none. Boom. Okay, now we can go down here and let's go into our winning part right here because we're all winners. And this will be my input dot, and now we're going to class name. We'll just assign it because we don't have any other class on it. We might as well just assign the name to it. Display none. Okay, now we have our submit button class name. Now the other option, if we weren't using a style there, we could assign the style directly through the JavaScript and go style.display equals none. Two ways, same thing. Generally, working with classes, because then all your style information is in one place, and it also makes it easier to add or subtract classes if we say wanted to have a replay button and we can make it come back. But trying to give you options and show you different ways of accomplishing things. So southwest, take box of matches, east, use box of matches, and let's go east once more, and boom, game over. So let's just take a look here and review a little bit of what we did. If I put this on 2 lines, it's not the end of the world because it does make it a little bit easier to see what's going on. I mean, for that matter, we can do this and this. Tab this over so we can see we have all of this. Whoop, wrong. Tab. There we go. That looks prettier. So we can see how the purple here goes to the purple there on it. I really like how this curly gives me that line that connects it. That's so awesome inside of Visual Studio Code. So we have these two things. So when my action is east or south, meaning I'm in that corner, map location is 8. We've verified I'm in the, well, east or south are the two ways I can exit that corner. Map location is 8, so we know where we are. And our game over flag is true, meaning we can now exit the game and go to a higher plane of existence. If that happens, we don't want to go down and run the rest of this where it calls display, and in display where it now shows us the backpack and the items and all that. We don't want to do that. We just want to make the input and submit buttons go away. We want to change our output HTML to whatever game winning message you want to provide to your player. So then you can set it up that way, and we use return as a way to exit this whole function of play game so it doesn't render or not render, run through any of the other code that is there. It just says we're done. I mean, I'm just going to put a little comment here. Leave play game function. There we go. So we have a little comment telling us what's going on. And when we do that, it takes care of it. 2 different ways of handling the style information. And going back into using our item, what we do is we just check the map location per the item we're working with. And if it does what we want, we have that happen. And otherwise, we just use our generic message. So if you have more items in your game, you can have a generic message for each one when you use it, much like I do for the knife. So most of your items could be junk items. They're just little trinkets. But some of your items could change what it looks like in your game, like I do with the flashlight, where it makes the troll go away and stay away. We still can't exit the game, but at least we've now changed it. So we're creating a more interactive and engaging experience. So really, we have a pretty functional game here that's doing some fun stuff. But what it doesn't do is it just doesn't look pretty yet. Text is over here. This is centered, so we probably should work on aligning that so it's underneath it. And even better, maybe this just becomes a little map where you just see the little squares. We make it really small, like it's a little game map showing you where you've been. So the map is just, we see the 3x3 grid, and then it colors it as you travel, so it shows where you are. Every time you go to a square, it updates that color as a visited square, so you know where you've gone in the map. You could play with it that way. And then what would be great is if we had some artwork. So each time I go to a different square in my map, I'm getting a nice picture that corresponds to what's there. So on the troll one, I might need two. Troll before, troll after, spiderweb before, spiderweb after. I mean, these are all things that we can add to make the game better, and that's what we will look at in an upcoming video. Good luck and have fun.